You are going to rock the year, and we're going to help you do that here at the Elite Recruiter Podcast. We have the Rock the Year event, the Recruiting Growth Summit, kicking off on March 10th. It is going to be awesome. We're going to be focusing on mindset. We're going to be focusing on sourcing. We're going to be focusing on AI. We're going to be focusing on operations and high performance and BD and sales. Every single thing that you need as a recruiter to make sure that you can rock 2025 and make it the year of abundance. Make it the year that works for you. Make it the year that you crush every single one of your dreams. Let's go get it. Coming up on this episode of the Elite Recruiter Podcast.
Started this firm as a young mom, and in my mind, I thought, man, I can offer this for so many others. I genuinely believe the golden ticket in our industry is a candidate. We can get leads from these candidates. We can learn market intelligence. We can understand hiring trends or company updates.
Welcome to the Elite Recruiter Podcast with your host, Benjamin Mena, where we focus on what it takes to win in the recruiting game. We cover it all from sales, marketing, mindset, money, leadership, and placements.
I am so excited about this episode of the Elite Recruiter Podcast. The reason is I have a guest, Rashin, who has dominated her city, dominated her niche. Like, he's going to talk about how to grow, but most importantly, some of the things that we're going to talk about is how you can grow your recruiting business. You can look at different models of a way to explosively grow the way that you actually want to build your business, the way that you want to recruit. I know many of us were trained a certain way, and you're like, you know what? This is going back to my wonderful days at a company that starts with an A and ends in a tech. You know, there are ways that I wanted to recruit and ways that I want to do my business, but I wasn't allowed to because it was their environment. It was their system. But you know what? We had to move on. So that's why I am so excited to have Rashin here to kind of like show some of the things that she has done to help you grow and to help you dominate whatever you are planning on winning in 2025. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, real quick, 30 seconds, a little bit about like yourself, your company, and what you're doing.
Perfect. My name is Rashin Keller. I am the owner and CEO of the Keller Group. We are a executive search firm based here in Phoenix, Arizona. I have a history, very proud to be raised in, the agency life. One firm, my entire career, was able to move up and support them in multiple cities, but ultimately decided it was in the best interest of myself, my family, the growth of our livelihood to start my own firm.
That's awesome. Okay, so real quick, and we're kind of like, you work at one agency before starting your own firm. Like,
Right.
How did you even end up in this wonderful world of recruiting? How did you fall into the space?
I love that question. So I think to answer that properly, it dates back to college and to, what I thought I wanted to do. As many other interviews have shared, there is no direct path into recruiting. It is something that we've all fallen into, especially us who have almost 20 years of experience. So I have a massive heart for nonprofits. I always knew I wanted to help others, and that has a lot to do with my family history. My dad had fallen sick when I was very young, and we had a lot of help in various ways, whether they were nurses or doctors or whatnot. And so I just knew that although I wanted to better someone's life, it wasn't in a medical capacity. And I always thought it would be through a nonprofit. Coincidentally, it really aligned with my desire to bring people together. I was a part of Young Life. That's a group where we just connect young professionals. And I always just felt that I had this desire to naturally connect others and then an altruistic heart to do right by others. And so when I moved into, my husband and I got married very young, and we had to move across the nation for his medical school. I was supported by a recruiter. I never knew this industry existed. It was a ghost industry to me, and she completely helped me in a dark hour. I was a degreed college grad with a nonprofit background and nowhere to go. in a very, very cold city. So when she supported me, I felt like, man, she checked all the boxes of what I want to do and how I want to support others. And so our life moved us again a year later. And I immediately went to a staffing firm this time seeking their guidance. And I'll never forget the individual that looked at me and considered me for an internal position. And the rest is history.
That is awesome. So, out of curiosity, that recruiter that gave you such a great candidate experience,
Yeah.
are you still in touch with that person?
She actually retired by the time that I had left. So she was seasoned in her career, but I do still fondly think of her.
That's awesome. Okay, so you actually like, hey, recruiting is a place I wanted to go. You started there, and I know we talked about this offline. You actually built 2 offices for them.
Right. Right.
Eh,
So, oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, before you got to the point where like they looked at you and said, "Hey, I want you to go build this office in this new location and all this stuff." What were you doing to kind of excel, whether it's like, production wise, leadership wise, and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So my start was in temp recruiting for accounting and finance professionals. And I had started in an office where it was a low performing office. And I personally supported 2 sales individuals. And it was just me and supporting them. And together we took off. And I loved the cadence of being able to support them and to build up the reputation of this office in collaboration with them and to feel success. And so we went from very little billings to all making our president's clubs, all making a name for ourselves within the first year and a half. Sadly, my husband then again was being asked to relocate for a specialty after we put Cleveland on the map. It was Cleveland, Ohio. And we were asked to move 2 hours away. There was no office, there was no footprint, there were no leads, no businesses. And mind you, I was a recruiter. I was a temp recruiter. Although I had a hand in supporting our current clients, I was never responsible for bringing in clients. And so looking back, man, I was so grateful to them for allowing me this opportunity, but it was zero support. They said, good luck. You could sit in a sister office. You'll have a cube, you'll have a laptop. And if you want to maintain your status with our company, you'll find a way. And so it was always a sink or swim type of mentality. And mind you, my husband was in school. This was do or die for us. And I felt such loyalty to this brand for, just being the kickstart of my career. I didn't want to look elsewhere. I didn't believe in going to another firm. So sink or swim.
Okay,
And I did not sink.
You definitely started swimming, but like one of the challenges I've seen when it comes to a lot of recruiters is, sales is looked at as like this, I don't want to say like a promotion, but this completely different thing. Like when you're sitting there, like you had your laptop, you had a cube, and you were literally looking at yourself and like in the mirror, like, what am I going to do?
Right.
How did you get your first few clients in this brand new city?
Such a good question. And it's an easy answer. You go back to what you know. I know candidates. I know how to speak to candidates. I know what it's like to build a pipeline and get an understanding of the market through a candidate. I genuinely believe the golden ticket in our industry is a candidate. We can get leads from these candidates. We can learn market intelligence. We can understand hiring trends or company updates, and we take that information and from there we create a plan to go after some business development. But we cannot do that through the business journal, through looking on job ads, just ambiguous emails, hoping to land something. We have to start with intel, and our intel comes from candidates.
And once you started growing this office, like, how big did you end up growing it before your next move again?
I know it's so hard to even think about. I was able to, so if this helps, we were able to justify a hire within that office within 4 months. And so it was taking off. But again, it was very much trusting the process, one candidate lead at a time and going after it. I think we left that office with 30 temps on assignment within 10 months. And so for not having any sales experience, being able to bring in a variety of business was huge.
And then you took off again. And in the story, what
Yeah.
happened next?
We went to Michigan is what happened next. And they said the same thing. Here's a computer. But this time, what was really great was I was able to bring somebody on right away. I was able to rent my own space. And they said, do it again. And we did it again by getting to know the market landscape through candidates. We generated our leads. We understood hiring trends. We got to know who was exiting, entering. And we were able to build that office off the ground. We brought in executive recruiters for that team. I left that office, sadly, a few years later, and there were 6 of us. So it was just trusting the process.
Out of curiosity, the owner of this company by this time must have absolutely loved you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the owner or the CEO, but I had a phenomenal VP who supported me entirely and just always raised me up. But, I do think in large companies, as we all have felt, there's always an expectation for more with very little, just pause for appreciation.
All right. So you went and built this up it was the second or the third city up.
Right.
Where did you go next?
Well, next was finally home, back to Phoenix. We were done with our 7-year journey, and I was offered a position to come into our established Phoenix, Arizona branch. At that point, Phoenix was a top biller for the nation, as it naturally was. And I entered that space feeling very much unable to add my own fingerprint in this office. And so very quickly, I realized I wasn't in charge of hiring the team. I wasn't in charge of putting in, the altruistic approach where I feel that I was able to weave and web throughout my other offices. This was a number-driven office. And so I was expecting our first child, and I just, I made the choice to not return after maternity leave.
I feel like there's a whole slew of people that I've spoken with that decided to start their company with their first child.
They're smart. Yeah, they're smart. The recruiting is a lifestyle position. At least it should be. It should offer a lot of flexibility. But back in the day, it was very rigid. And so we're motivated as mothers or fathers to bring balance to the home.
Absolutely love that. Well, okay. So you decided to start your own firm. You're like, hey, this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
But you just mentioned that you wanted to leave your fingerprint.
Yeah. I think that's important. I think that we all have our individual way of finding success in this role. There is not one proper code of law, if you will, that will dictate someone being successful or unsuccessful. And for me, my approach has always to be to not lose the reason behind what we're doing. And that is truly to bring two great things together, to trust our process and to not be numbers driven. Yes, data is important and volume is important. I am not discrediting either one of those. We need those to be successful business entrepreneurs. But when we lose sight of someone trusting us with their job search or a company trusting us for hiring, and we are just taking this as a volume basis, we're not going to end up being successful. And so that is my fingerprint. It may be different for others, but that is the heartbeat of our firm.
That is awesome. So, okay, you launched your own firm, and you're probably going to give me the same answers you gave me earlier, but you have to ask it. All these years recruiting, you just started off on your own. You made a decision. You jumped off building the plane on the way down. How did you end up getting your first 3 customers with your own company?
Oh, such a good question. Oh man, yes, this goes back to all that I just said. It always started with a candidate. So I spent the first 30 days just talking to candidates, and I would have grace with me here. I would put postings out of jobs I knew how to fill. I only had 2 job slots, and I would post these 2 jobs. They would always be in rotation of roles that I would consider in my wheelhouse. And slowly I started to build a candidate pool in which I could trust and I knew I could take to market. And so after 30 days, I got my first client. Old traditional way. I was picking up the phone. I was leaving MPCs, overviews in voicemails. No one was answering my call. And I would follow up with an email, and I got a hit in 30 days.
Wow. And one of the things that you like to focus on is you primarily only work in the Phoenix market.
Right.
Why is that?
So I'm really proud of that. I think it matters. You hear a lot of specialists say you need to have a niche. And I agree with that, but I also agree that you should have boundaries. And why that's important is because we should be able to recycle our efforts. And so that is a term that I love because I really want that for my team. I don't want anything to be wasted. So in Phoenix, we focus in a few areas: accounting and finance, HR, marketing, digital creative. We have our areas of specialty. And so when we are, say, if we have a candidate become the runner up, we're able to recycle that candidate, take them back out into the market, and continue to work less hard, if you will, on existing efforts.
I love that you highlight the recyclable because I think that's a lot of things that recruiters hear, but also don't understand. And
Right.
it's just speaking like 100% probably to me more than others because GovCon is like, GovCon's big, but I'm always working like new stuff.
100%. 100%. Why are we recreating the wheel? Why? Let's stay within a certain range. Let's stay within certain specialty areas and just get after it. Every time we get a new search, let's go back to our pre-existing candidates that we have in our system and see who we can recycle.
Mm. You also mentioned that you did a good job investing in the Phoenix city or in the community. Like, what kind of investments did you make for your recruiting business and in a city?
I wouldn't say that. Yes, I would definitely agree. I think we have to show our city that we care about them. And so we do that in multiple different ways. We sponsor several groups that are within our wheelhouse in accounting and finance, HR, marketing. So anybody that's coming into town, we are a sponsor of these types of events. We pour into all of our schools. So a lot of members on my team have children and we sponsor their events. We sponsor sports. We want to just show everybody that, hey, we're here, but we want to pour into our community. And so just by sponsoring events, showing up at events, volunteering at events, we want to be known that, not only do we support you in staffing, we want to be a backing to you as well financially.
I love that you're supporting your team and the things that your team is doing. But for somebody that's listening to this that has a business, it's like debating on the ROI. Have you seen the ROI of investing in the city?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think what we've learned over and over is put yourself out there. Put yourself out there and get a logo that you are proud of, that is descriptive enough to highlight what you do, and sponsor, put yourself out there. It may not bring in business immediately, but thereafter, when you send them an email, there will be recognition of your logo. There will be familiarity.
Awesome. And I want to talk about now, like switching gears to building out your team. Like, I know you're incredibly proud of like what you've been doing with your organization. And for, some of the things that we're definitely going to cover is like your retention rate is super high. Your client retention rate is super high. Like you don't lose people. People are excited to stay on the team. Like, what are
Right.
you doing over there?
So you heard my story. I started this firm as a young mom. And in my mind, I thought, man, I can offer this for so many others. And by this, I mean flexibility, high earning potential, a lifestyle, freedom of expression, yet with the umbrella of our knowledge, of our contracts, of all of our content. And so I created the Keller Group model to be a 1099 model. And so everybody is essentially their own business under the Keller Group umbrella.
Hmm. And when a recruiter's looking at this, like, why would they look at like the Keller Group umbrella versus, I'm just going to throw it out there, the company that starts with an A and ends in a tech?
Uh-huh. Absolutely. So, I think that you have to do, and I'll be very honest with you, we do not make offers to very many people. This has to truly be a fit and for both sides. And the way that we determine that is, are you an extremely competitive person? I personally, as I mentioned, I was in a sink or swim model for the majority of my career. I had to prove that I can do it in order to keep my job. And I love to hire individuals who are fighting for their families, who are past athletes, who are competitive with themselves, who want a betterment of their life, because the commission structure that I offer is, somebody might think this is crazy, but it is almost double what a standard commission plan looks like. However, they are running their own business. There are no other incentives. It is just an extremely lucrative commission structure with the support of a collaborative team.
Mm, definitely love that. How do you go find these like high level individuals to bring on as recruiters?
Well, I will say I'm really proud of this. We've only hired outside of a referral network twice.
Okay.
So our existing team bring great candidates to the table for us to consider. I have one particular partner, if you will, and she has changed the life of her and her family. And she has an amazing network that she constantly is advocating our role too. And so she has brought on 3, 4 great individuals.
That's awesome. It sounds like you're doing a lot of good things. How do you balance the wanting to just absolutely grow like crazy versus controlled growth?
Great question. I think that, there's a lot of people that would say, grow faster, build your team out faster. There's no harm in bringing someone on when it's a 1099 model. But the reality is, when you build such a cohesive unit that truly supports one another, that lives and breathes collaboration and a non-stressful environment that is supporting, it has to be very intentional every time we bring somebody on. I think that keeping the integrity of the climate of our group is much more important than, trying to be the biggest and the best, which is never our intention. I feel that we have such residual business because they can feel the difference.
I'm going to ask you about like the clients and everything in a second, but like, when it comes to the recruiting space, like how did you create that collaborative environment where everybody feels like it's okay to like work together? Especially in like recruiting, because I've been places where it's, excuse my language, just fucking cutthroat. And people
Totally.
steal everything from you, including your commission. And then I've been to other places where it was like a breath of fresh air. How do you keep that within your organization?
I think that we demanded up front. That is something that we intensely, look for during the interview process. We have to have proven ability to be a cohesive member of our team. Every hire has a culture check within other members of our organization. So even a hiring decision is not solely mine. It is a group decision. And then furthermore, we want wins for one another because there's group incentives. We have awesome incentives that we have put in place that would take us all on a trip or take us out to a great dinner. So if one person wins, we all win by just building a camaraderie based incentive program.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. I want to ask about clients because I feel like a lot of times recruiters, we talk, like the people on the podcast are masters with client relationships and client development, but
Right.
like I've seen it out in the public, like that's always a struggle. How do you have these clients and what are you doing behind the scenes for these clients to just keep on coming back to you guys year after year after year?
That's a great question. I think it really starts with not being lazy with our clients. COVID really changed the landscape of business development, and that is to do everything virtually, everything remotely. I think it goes a really long way to still carve out time to drop off a coffee, to ask them to lunch, to ask them about any personal child sports update. We work with our clients so intently, so closely, not just when they have needs, but we really want to stay connected with them in preparation for the next one. But we do that by dedicating our time to make sure that we do it right before there's a need.
Mm. And okay, so with that, I'm sure you guys get a lot of referrals.
Right.
It sounds like you guys are awesome with referrals when it comes to everything. Do you
Right.
ever turn down business?
Oh, thank you. Such a great question. Proudly. Proudly. I love to turn down business. I think that once you get to a place of really trusting in the service you provide, and that takes a while, but once you get there, once you truly want to represent the best opportunities in a market and truly represent the best talent in a market, you will very easily say no to business that does not align with your goals or with your core values.
Love that. We're going to be kicking off a AI and Clay boot camp at the end of this month. I've actually partnered with Steven from the Art of Sales Academy. You guys saw him talk at the last summit, but we are putting together a 4-week boot camp because if you guys want a good laugh, some of these AI tools are complicated, and I'm going to be sitting in the class learning along with you. But these AI tools, once you master them, they can have such a huge impact in your business. But the problem is learning the tools. So we're partnered up to put together a boot camp starting at the end of this month to help you master these tools so that way you can multiply what you have done for your recruiting business. And on top of that, I'm also going to add in a free VIP ticket for the Rock the Year Summit so that way you don't miss any of that also. So excited. Join me for the boot camp so that way we together can learn how to master these AI tools so that way it can work for you. Is there any piece of advice that you would give to like a founder that's like listening to this and like, hey, I want to grow my team. How should I go about doing kind of some of the things that you did yourself?
I would say don't be quick to turn down a 1099 model. I believe that this is an offering that we don't often approach, but it gives you such flexibility with your hires in that it empowers them. It gives them a high commission plan. It gives them motivation to quickly see a return on their time, their investment. But also, it does not require you to be a micromanager. You don't have to worry about if they're working every hour on the hour. You are going to hire confidently individuals who want better for themselves, have that competitive edge, are in that do or die situation, and you will support them on the back end without feeling that you have to be a micromanager.
Love that. Well, okay. Before we jump over the quickfire questions, we covered a lot. We covered about how you had to sink or swim multiple times and literally get offices off the ground, which, I've met very few recruiters that have been able to do that. So kudos on that. Secondly, we talked about how you like launched your own business after having a baby and then how you've been growing it. Is there anything else within that box or your story that you want to cover before we jump over to the quickfire questions?
I would say please don't underestimate the power of a candidate call. And what I mean by that is it is not just a check mark on a box that you had an interview. Please pour into every candidate that you speak to. Understand, get any sort of lead from them. And again, that could be anything, but they are the holder of information that we are not privy to. They are on the front lines. Is a company going under? Is it up? Is there a merger coming? Are they, possibly interviewing with A, B, and C company through another agency? You just got this lead that there's another company spending money with another firm. Don't underestimate the power of a candidate call. And if there's segregation in the firm that you exist in, where there's individuals that do recruiting and individuals that sell, make sure there's a bridge. Make sure that there's clear communication. If somebody captures any sort of lead, how is that information being disseminated to the sales individuals? It has to be a beautiful flow back and forth in order to be more direct in our sales approach.
I love that. I feel like we need to do like a master class on either your secret weapon of like the candidate.
It is truly the most obvious secret weapon out there. Please don't underestimate it. That is just something that I really, really stand behind. And I know my team feels they are the holder of business. So do right by them.
All right. So jumping over the quick fire questions, they don't need to be quick answers, and this is kind of a curiosity question when it comes to like, you're hiring new recruiters. Are the people that you're hiring, are they brand new recruiters or have they been recruiters before?
Usually they are brand new recruiters with some sort of customer centric quality to them. One of our coolest hires was a previous spine surgeon, a PA. So he worked in spine surgery and he is one of the most impressive executive recruiters that you can have on your side. So no, we're not coming to the table with massive amount of recruiting experience, but we're all knowledgeable in our own ways.
Well, that goes in the first question. And this is perfect because it sounds like you're giving this advice constantly, but somebody that's never been a recruiter before, they're just getting started in an industry in 2025. What advice would you give to them for them to succeed in this career?
I would say do not ebb and flow with the wins and the losses. Stay consistent. Again, do not ebb and flow. And so do not find your value as a recruiter based on if your candidate gets the job or if a client signs a contract. Do not allow that to impact how you feel about yourself, which is so easy to say and not actually implement, but that is my biggest advice. Stay neutral, stay grounded. It is not a reflection of you as an individual. It is just business.
Same question, but picture this, you're talking to somebody in a room that's 10, 15, 25 years of experience. And you're just chatting with them and they're like, hey, I've been in the game for a while. What advice would you give to me to continue to see success in this wonderful world of recruiting?
I would say, trust the process. I think that a lot of times we're all looking for easy, quick tools that can help us. And we're seeing AI helping a lot with automation, but truly trust the process, make sure that you feel that you have a great flow of a call plan of, certain reconnects that you want to do. Just make sure that you are not always looking to recreate the wheel. The wheel is there. Have a plan. Do right by your candidates, do right by your clients, and stay consistent.
Has there been a book that's had a huge impact on your career?
Gosh, there's so many great books out there. There is a book that was very primitive, but I loved it because I never had sales, and it was Cold Calling 101. And I will return with the author's name for you. But truly, it just taught us, and it really similarly aligns with Atomic Habits, but it just really taught us that with a plan, having an understanding of where you want your day to go in terms of a call plan or a business plan, but having that already established the night before is going to dictate and direct your entire day.
And this next question is going to be kind of interesting because you have your team and you're still recruiting yourself too, right?
And
do you have like a favorite tech tool that helps your business or helps your day?
Yes, absolutely. I will share our favorite tool that we discovered most recently, and it's called MetaView. Have you heard MetaView? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. We may be late to the game, but immediately drop what you're doing and sign up with the free demo of MetaView. It has entirely saved us so much time. What it does essentially is that it dictates your calls for you. It's a third party and it listens in and it beautifully summarizes any call, whether it's a candidate or a client. And most recently, I was on a very technical call with a PE firm and they needed such a specialized hire. And I'm trying to listen and I'm also trying to take notes. And MetaView just completely summarized the whole thing for me.
I will gotta say, for those listening, they do have a free option for up to 25 conversations per month. So just go get it.
Okay. So true.
All right. Okay. So this is kind of curiosity. Like, you had to sink or swim.
Yeah.
Multiple times. You started your own business. You're doing great. You're dominated the Phoenix market. Like, you've really honed in and had a lot of success. And I know you probably had a lot of like heartache going through the process, but to your core, like, you keep on winning. Like, what in your core is like driving you?
I think it goes back to who I was 20 years ago. And that was somebody that enjoyed connecting people and wanted to do right by others. It is the origin of our business, but it's not manufactured. It's who I am. And so, yes, there's a ton of losses. There's a ton of wins. There's hardships. But when you feel that you get to wake up and do something that fuels you, how lucky are we?
That's awesome. But like, looking back at those hard days and those hard weeks that I know you've gone through, how do you get yourself out of those funks?
Man, yeah, they're there. They're there. And not only are they there, they were for me starting this business, they are currently for my team who, experience peaks and valleys. And so what advice I always give them is what I would give an experienced recruiter is to please trust the process, stay consistent, but also give yourself mental breaks. Allow for yourself to get up and exercise, take a laugh, go grab a cup of coffee. I do not believe in hitting anything harder when you are not in the right mental space, and allowing small graces throughout a hard day will truly enable you to come back tomorrow in a better, refreshed state of mind.
Well, looking at this year, is there something that you are looking that you want to focus on, like with your business or yourself, or things that you like? What are you looking at growing within 2025?
Personally for me, it's interesting to admit this out loud, but I've never done a podcast before. And some of you might say, man, I can tell. But I like to be a silent killer. I like to work behind the scenes. I like to crush jobs and take names, but I don't put myself out there. And so I have been challenged this year to really push myself out of my comfort zone, become a bigger presence on LinkedIn, to use the AI tools out there to help me in generating content and putting my thoughts out on paper for others to benefit from. I have these thoughts. I just don't do a great job of being the front and center individual.
Awesome. Yeah. I got a call from a friend saying that we should chat, and that's how this podcast happened. He was like, I know this killer. She doesn't want to talk, but she's a killer and you need to talk to her.
Thank you so much. It's true. It's just who I am. I like to be behind the scenes, encouraging others. And again, I love to take names. I love to be successful, but I don't necessarily need everybody to know that. But I do believe it's time to share some knowledge.
Awesome. I'm going to ask this next question two ways. Okay. The first is going to be like way back when at the start of your recruiting career, but like, take everything that you know, all the conversations, the relationships, the wins, the losses. If you got a chance to sit down with yourself in your first month as a brand new recruiter, what would you actually tell yourself?
I think what I would tell myself on day one of starting this job is that it is okay to put your individualized fingerprint on this role. Eventually, I got the confidence to do that. But when you start out and you look around a bullpen in the good old days and you hear so-and-so do it this way or this person do it this way, you feel you have to show up a certain way, but you don't. Be true to yourself. And like I said, as much as possible, do not go up and down with the wins and losses. I just wish I could have had a little bit more confidence that it would always be okay if I trust the process.
Same question, but let's fast forward a few years. I think it's like 7 years, like to when you after you had your baby, you're starting your own firm. Like, you now know so much more than you did then. What would you tell yourself? Like, if you got a chance to sit down with yourself, literally at those early days, with your company.
I mean, if you only knew, I would hardly give myself breaks. I would never leave our back office. I cried many times. Just you are hustling and then you're hustling in your home life. And I think what I would tell myself is you're going to get there. And I did eventually get there. But for me, I would set goals for myself, which I would highly, highly recommend everyone doing, starting a firm, running their own book of business. Set a goal for yourself and celebrate those goals. And so I think when my husband and I started to implement that, we are going to go to this great restaurant if my billings exceed this and truly celebrate those wins. Slow down to celebrate your wins and don't just keep driving through them.
You said that like things started changing when you started like goal setting. Was it a combination of you had more candidates and everything in play and clients in play, or was there a mind shift switch because of the goal setting?
Another piece of advice I would give is that you should always have a mentor in this journey or in this industry in any role. So for me as an entrepreneur, I had a mentor who guided me in that take whatever I'd build for the large company in the past and set that for a personal goal for myself. And that really became my North Star. And so I really think that when you're struggling in the beginning and you're grasping for straws, you'll take any business, it's good to just remind yourself that, man, I'm here to hustle. Even if I hear a no, I have this goal and I'm going to go after it.
And you mentioned a mentor.
Yeah.
Did you have that mentor before you started, or did you actually, in the process of starting your business, go seek out a mentor?
Well, admittedly, this was a competitor of mine when I was in our Michigan office, and I would always be competing with this particular individual. He was a one-man band, and I called him when I came to Phoenix. And so, no, I didn't have a mentor ever until I was ready to start this firm. And when he told me he was spending most of his days on the golf course and making X amount of dollars, I was like, all right, that's the lifestyle I want for myself. But you don't realize it's possible until somebody really shows you the way.
Did he start his own firm too?
He did. Yeah.
Awesome. Phenomenal. Yeah. I'm sure you talk to recruiters all the time. You have recruiters on your team, recruiters not on your team, recruiters, like you do a good job within a network of, I don't want to say like a mastermind, but a group that you guys meet up with and just share knowledge, which I think is super important. But I'm sure like some of the questions that you get is like, hey, how can I become a silent killer like you? Like, how did you get so good with like candidates? Like all these like tactical questions. Is there a question that you wish a recruiter would actually ask you? And what would be that answer?
Man, I wish they would ask me, how can I get a lead out of a candidate? How can I get a lead? That would be something tangible that you can walk away from and directly turn it into business. And so I would say the answer to that, again, it sounds very redundant. I believe in the candidate being the gatekeeper, but truly the lead is you don't get it unless you ask a hard question. Why are we not asking the hard question? What firms are you working with? Where else are you interviewing? And then assumptively saying, are you interviewing at XYZ through this firm? Allow them to say yes or no, or I'm not at liberty to share. But we must ask these questions because in turn, we're hustling for sales and we're throwing lines and lines in the water, hoping to get a bite, when a candidate will directly tell us who is spending money with our competitors. And they're also telling us now, they're spending that money now. Let's go get it. And so I wish a recruiter would ask me, Rashin, how can I get more leads? And I could do an entire masterclass on this, but we'll never get anywhere unless we ask the hard questions.
Well, maybe we could set that up.
Let's do it.
Well, anyways, like a few different things. First of all, if somebody that's listening to this episode and they want to follow you, how do they go about doing that?
Thank you. I would say that LinkedIn would be the best way. My handle, Rashin Keller, the Keller Group is my company.
Awesome. And before I let you go, is there anything else that you want to share with the listeners?
I would just say that if you are even considering starting out starting your own firm, if that is something that is a desire on your heart, immediately go speak with someone who has done it. Trust in the process, believe in yourself, and don't underestimate the power and value of a candidate.
I love that. Man, this has been such a fun conversation. And like I said, I think you need to get, I think you, like you said, you need to get out there more this year.
Thank you.
Teaching other people how to be silent killers as recruiters, like just crush it. Like this is the year, this is the year to chase your dreams.
Oh man. If I can share one more thing, our January 2025 was the most successful month that we've had in 7 years. January, or I should say 2025, is already shaping up to be an equivalent year to 2022, which was the year for the recruiter. This is going to be the year for agencies to make a massive impact. So let's capitalize on it. I couldn't confidently say that about the last 2 years. Thankfully, we did phenomenal in our billings, but a lot of firms didn't. This year, this month alone, we are billing more than we did in Q1 of last year.
All right. This is going to sound like a dumb question. Are you, like, because you live in Arizona, have you ever gone surfing before?
I have gone surfing, yes.
Okay. So, but if you've gone surfing, this is a chance, like you need, just as she was just saying, get on your board and get in the water.
Get on your board. Get on your board. So if this is the year where you take a leap of faith, this is the year that you go from recruiting into sales, whatever it is for yourself, this is the year. Mark my words.
She believes in you. I believe in you. Let's go. Thank you guys for listening.
Let's go. Thank you guys.